Good morning, Councillor McClellan. Would you mind just doing a quick audio check for us?
How's that working, Susan?
That is beautiful. Thank you very much. We'll start the meeting now.
Susan, I'm going to turn my video off. I'm kind of out in the rhubarb here. Just want to make sure I got a good signal.
That's perfectly fine. If you wouldn't mind, if you do have a comment, you can either raise your hand or you can just ask to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning all, and I would like to welcome everyone to our Huron County Council meeting today. Welcome to all members of council that are joining us both in person and virtually this morning. Welcome to all of our staff, our senior management team that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of the corporation of the County of Huron and our 61,000 residents. Welcome also to members of the public that are joining us this morning and any members of the media also in attendance. I would like to indicate at the outset that council meetings are available live through Zoom and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. For the start of my warden's comments this morning, I would first like to congratulate Mackenzie Terpstra, who is the new Queen of the Furrow for Huron County. The Huron County plowing match was held on the 15th and 16th of August at Coos and Natalie Vermeux's farm at Bayfield, and it was an excellent site for the Huron County match. Both CAO Warwick and myself were able to attend on the first day, and I would have to suggest that the competitors really appreciated the opportunity to converse with us, and they were particularly happy that our CAO had the opportunity to be there that day. We never want to underestimate how valuable that our youth are in Huron County. And we have to look first at the leaders. And when I think of long-term leaders, Don Dodds, the McGavin family, and others in the Sodbusters Club, what they have done to mentor the youth is nothing short of amazing. The amount of young competitors that were involved and their enthusiasm for agriculture and the match was simply amazing. For those in attendance from outside of the county, Huron County was an envy to them because many matches do not have the involvement of the youth that Huron County has. And we never want to take that for granted. We need to continually cultivate that. The following day was extremely well attended, both in attendance and participation. And there was a wonderful banquet put on by Courthouse, absolutely catering, did a great job, and it was extremely well attended. Following that, many of us on this council and our staff attended the AMO conference in Ottawa. There was over 3,300 participants in that. And for a city to absorb that number of people, there's probably 5 hotels and all the restaurants involved, again, is very, very impressive. So to everyone that attended, I know it was extremely worthwhile. I was involved in 9 delegations, 2 on behalf of ACW. I was invited also to attend with the town of Goderich regarding healthcare for Huron Health Systems, and many others on behalf of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. I would suggest that our messaging was extremely well received. It was both respectful and clear. We had extremely good delegations with Solicitor Kirshner and also Minister Suma regarding infrastructure. Along with that, very well received delegations by Minister Thompson and also all of the opposition parties that we were able to meet with. I would like to also recognize that our CAO was acclaimed to the Board of Directors of AMO, and the talents of Megan Warwick and her expertise and ability is recognized far beyond the borders of Huron County. So I would ask everyone to join me in congratulating CAO Warwick. . On the Saturday, upon return, there was a Arbor Award tree planting at Lawnsboro that Dave Pullen's mother Florence was in attendance at, and that is to recognize outstanding volunteers in the 4-H program. It was recognized by 4-H Ontario. Daryl Bergsma was the recipient of this, and there was a beautiful red maple tree that was planted. And when we think of past winners of that, Dave's mom, Florence Pullen, Don Dodds, volunteers are vital, and Huron County is the epitome of that. And when we all pull together and volunteer and don't care who gets the credit, it is amazing what can be accomplished. Senator Rob Black was also in attendance at that tree planting ceremony. Last week, there was a national awareness of Overdose Day in the town of Goderich, and thank you to Mayor Bazinet. Stephen Tamming was very responsible in organizing that, and I brought comments on behalf of Huron County. We always need to be very, very mindful of those that find themselves in this situation. And finally, last Saturday and Sunday was the RCMP musical ride hosted at the Clinton Raceway and also by the Reach Centre. To Mayor Ginn, thank you very much for being the host of this. It was in conjunction with the Bayfield Agricultural Society. Minister Thompson, yourself, Mayor Ginn, and myself were also invited to be there, and we were. And it was an amazing event. To see the grandstand filled, over 1,000 people in attendance on Saturday evening and again on Sunday. And that will be the last event that the grandstand will host, as there will be a reconstruction of it. It will be demolished and a new grandstand will be constructed at the Clinton Raceway. However, to see everyone, and especially the young people, it's an opportunity to see the RCMP ride, and to everyone involved in that, thank you very much for that. With that, we have our agenda that has been circulated in advance, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented, and that would be Mayor Bazinet and Councillor Anderson. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof of any agenda item that we have today? And seeing none, I thank you. We do have 2 sets of minutes, first of the Audit Committee and then Council Day 2. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder. The minutes of both of these meetings be adopted as circulated. And that is Councillor Vanstone and P. Heffer. Are there any questions on any of these minutes? If not, all in favor of the motion? And that again is carried. Thank you. We do not have any delegations, petitions, or presentations today, so now I will open it up for councillor comments. If any members of council have any comments that they would like to share at this time, I'll go first to Councillor J. Heffer, please.
Thank you, Warden McNeil. I wanted to take this opportunity to state my intention to run for the position of warden for the upcoming term. I believe now is the time to make council staff and everyone else aware of that, so thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you for that. Councillor Anderson will be next, please.
Thank you, Warden. I've had a couple of calls from residents in Kinburn regarding the speed of which traffic is going through there. And there have been some young families have moved into the hamlet, and they are concerned with the speed. And they have wondered if it's possible to have speed spies installed so that people actually realize how fast they are going through this. And with the upcoming winter coming, that road is very heavily traveled by salt trucks. And I do know that they don't always slow down. So could I ask about speed spies and any information on that, please? And thank you.
Okay, thank you. Imran, would you care to make any comments on this at this time, please?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, we did receive that request from the OPP last week as well. So Speed Spy and a speed display device was installed yesterday. They will stay up for until winter. So to your comment about the winter driving, the speed display device will have to be removed before the winter because they do get damaged over the winter.
Okay, thank you for that, Imran. You're good with that, Councillor Anderson? Perfect, thank you. Any other councillor comments? I'll go next to Councillor Harding, please.
I'm not very comfortable about speaking about this issue. It's been spoken about before. Sorry. My iPad fell and turned it off. It was on. So anyways, the issue is Main Corners intersection, and that's in Howick Township at the corner where we also are merged with Perth County. 2 weeks ago, there was another serious accident there, a 3-vehicle accident with airlifts, and I've never been able to find out if they were fatal or not fatal. We don't seem to have the local news coverage we used to have on things like this, and so I cannot address that, how serious it was, but I was told that there have been 7 accidents there in a calendar year, and that's just wrong. That's way too many. There's got to be something we can do to stop that. And we have done a lot of things at this intersection. We have our flashing light overhead that we've had for years. We also have these new stop signs that light up like a Christmas tree, and I don't know how people don't see them. But anyways, they're just, I just don't know where to begin, or if I'm the only one concerned about this or whatever, but Perth Line 178 and Huron County Road 34 and that's the same road, have the stop signs at those corners. And County Road 30 and Perth Road 88 that goes into Kurtzville or out of Kurtzville, they're the north and south roads, which are not, do not have stop signs. I've been told, and I don't have a very good memory anymore, that at one time the stop signs were the other way, that it was 30 and 88 that had the stop sign. And I'm kind of wondering if a 4-way stop is possible and would work in a situation like this, because it would definitely slow the traffic down. And that wasn't my idea. That was a resident that lives very close by and who's very concerned about this. This accident 2 weeks ago, he said he didn't even go down because he doesn't want to see any more accidents. He saw too many, and they stay with us, so they do. So he was sort of suggesting a 4-way stop and photo radar. Also signage warning of a dangerous intersection. I'm not sure how that would work, but it just seems that the speed limits, I know 34 and 178 have an 80 per hour speed limit, whereas County Road 30 and it has a 90 speed limit in that area. So I just don't know what more I can say about this, but I think at one time we were way down the list on dangerous intersections, and we've got to be way up the list by now. It's been terrible. I think I'll leave it at that, and if some council members have questions or they want to answered, we would try to do that. And if they have ideas that they think something we can do to improve this intersection, I'm sure we'd all be happy to hear that.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to go to Imran first, if that's okay. Do you have any comments on this, please, Imran?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, it is an intersection that is on our radar. We've been in discussions with Perth County on how to proceed with options for that intersection, and I'd be happy to bring a staff report with more details if that's acceptable to County Council.
Thank you for that, Imran. And before I get a motion from Councillor Harding on that, Councillor Finch, do you have a comment you'd like to contribute?
I'll fully support a motion on that, of course. And I thank everyone here on County Council. I thank them for the support we've had down in South Huron and the future success we'll have with the roundabout eventually. But we have to remember that our greatest responsibility is the safety of the public that elected us. And I'll fully support anything in the county that needs to be addressed. And a report will be the start for sure. So if Councillor Harding wanted to make that motion, I will make the motion if he doesn't want to. But whatever, I'm certainly in favor of seconding his motion.
Okay, Councillor Harding, would you care to make a motion to request a staff report on this intersection?
Yes, I would be glad to make a request for a report to look at this intersection and see what we can or cannot do. And we have to work with Perth County on this. We also have a fire chief in Howick now. His name's Josh Kessner. And I talked to him about this issue. And even though a lot of these accidents, like how they happen, whether they end up in Perth County or Huron County or whatever, but he says, and there's nothing wrong with that approach, that Listowel usually responds to these accidents at main corners. So I think Perth County, we really have to work with them in finding out how serious and how many accidents there have been. And because this is the other issue, we have different OPP detachments coming together at that one spot. And sometimes when you get the report about these incidences, you're only getting a partial report. You're not getting the whole picture. And so I think we have to work together on this, and because this has to be improved. I will make that motion.
We have a motion seconded by Councillor Finch. Any further discussion on the staff report on this intersection? And if not, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. Is there any other comments from any of the members of council? Councillor Bazinet, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. I just want to make everyone aware I do have to step out at 10:30 because I do have a special council meeting at Goderich Town Hall. And I also want to thank you, Mr. Warden, for attending the opening ceremonies of our second annual Salt and Harvest Festival. It was a very well attended festival for us, a big crowd, and it was a great opportunity for the young and the old to learn about the world's largest salt mine and Parrish and Heimbecker as well, which is better known as our grain elevators down at our waterfront, but well attended, and people were just loving everything that they're able to do. The Compass Minerals had like a little virtual salt mine where the kids could go in with a hard hat on, and it was like they were down in a salt mine. So it was pretty spectacular to see. So thank you for everyone who attended.
Thank you very much for that. And I was remiss in commenting about that. And that simulator, as you commented, was a real hit. I know our two grandchildren donned the hard hat and the light and the reflectors. One was an engineer and the other was a mechanic. And, you know, it's great for the youth to be exposed to that. And the fact that we have the largest underground salt mine in the world in this town, in our county, is something we should always value. So thank you very much for that. Any additional comments? Councillor Becker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you for your comments about the Huron County Plow Match and Central Huron for hosting it. Our youth are the mainstay of the Plow Match. I've been able to go to 3 other matches since the county match with a little girl and her queen, Mackenzie, and we are the envy of the province. Huron County has set the standard right for years, going back when my kids plowed, and a lot of the kids from across the county. And the number of girls that partook in the Queen and the Princess competition, we are the envy. And Monday at the Middlesex match, there was nobody there, just the Queens. So they're looking at trying to get the volunteers, and that's what we have in Huron County, volunteers to make this happen.
Thank you for that, John. Would you like to expand and explain to County Council your granddaughter's achievements as of late?
Yeah, Jillian, my granddaughter. Well, how do I hold this in? Pretty proud, Papa. She's a good speaker, better than me. She has a talent. She won the Princess competition at the Clinton Spring Fair, and she entered the Plowing Princess competition and come out on top. And she is a talented little girl. Very proud.
Let's put our hands together. Congratulate Pop on this. Jillian is indeed a very accomplished young lady, very well spoken, and it makes us proud, as you say, the youth of Huron County. When I comment often how important agriculture is in Huron County, and we are the #1 county for agriculture in Ontario, I comment our best crop is our youth, and they're our future. So thank you very much for that. Any additional comments, any members of council? P. Heffer, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I just want to say kudos to our ECDEV with Vicky, allowing the cricket match to go on in North Huron, and just how was very much appreciated from people from various farther away towns and cities coming up to a little rural area, able to enjoy the game of cricket. It's, I guess, like hockey with some of us. And again, just thank you. I think they have this started now. I know they can go and carry on it without any delay now. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up, because that cricket match went again well beyond our borders of Huron County. And to all involved in that, thank you very much. And I know Imran is a tad passionate about his cricket. There's other things in life of other sports that are totally secondary to cricket. So Imran, thanks for your enthusiasm and promotion of this within our county. Thank you. Any additional comments? Thank you very much to everyone for that. With that, we do have a consent agenda that encompasses 8.1 to 8.6. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull for further discussion? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder that we would approve this with the actions as noted. Councillor Bazinet and Becker. All in favor of the motion? And that again is carried. Thank you very much. We do, under cultural services, have a no, I apologize for that. We move on to number 9, and that is planning and development. And it's a pleasure to welcome Craig Metzger today, who is here to answer any questions regarding the amendment to the file as noted in South Huron. Do we have any questions of Craig on this? And if I see none, I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the report from Craig Metzger titled South Huron Official Plan Amendment as presented for information. And that would be moved by Past Warden Ginn and seconded by Councillor Finch. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much, Craig. Under number 2, it is increasing the use of good forest practices in Huron County. Dave Pullen again is in attendance to answer any questions. Do we have any questions for Dave on this report? I will go to Past Warden Ginn first, please.
Yeah, this has been a concern of mine for some time. The fact that we have, only 30% of people harvest their woodlots in a sustainable manner, following good forestry practices. My comment is about the notice of intent, and we waive that fee. It's, I believe, $110. I'm wondering whether we should increase that fee and still waive it. I'm thinking like $250, because I just think it's being seen as the cost of doing business. And, we need to encourage people to look after these resources for future generations. And, I think we need to do something further to encourage people down that avenue.
Okay, thank you for that. Dave, would you have a comment on that? And welcome.
Through you, Warden McNeil, to Councillor Ginn. I think that is another thing that could be considered as part of encouraging more use of good forestry practice. One of the challenges we have right now are the number of operations that just involve trying to get rid of dead ash. And I think that's why we're having a bit of trouble getting that number up. Right now, we also are down a couple of foresters who were previously working in the county, and that certainly had an effect on the number of good forestry operations. But certainly we could look into the notice of intent fee and bring a report back on that.
Would that be your, thank you for that. Would that be your desire, Past Warden Ginn, to request a staff report on
Yeah,
this?
I would make that a motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? And seconded by Councillor Finch. Further discussion? All in favor on the staff report? And that is supported and carried. Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions for Dave on this report? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Dave Pullen, our Conservation Officer, titled Use of Good Forestry Practices, presented today for information purposes. Councillor Bazinet and Jay Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thanks very much, Dave, for the great work that you do on behalf of all residents of Huron County. Under number 3 is the surplus farm residents severance. the 15-year criteria for the age of the residents. And Sandra Weber is here to present on this today. And I do believe Denise Van Amersfoort will be attending virtually. Please present your comments to us today, Sandra.
Thank you, Warden McNeil, and good morning, everyone. As Warden McNeil mentioned, Denise is joining us virtually as well to help answer any questions on this report. But just a bit of the background. So at the July meeting, County Council was reviewing an application for a severance for a surplus farm resident severance. And there was a discussion about the criteria that the residence must have been built a minimum of 15 years ago. So Council asked staff to bring back some additional information on the background and history and the rationale for this criteria. So that report is before you today. I'll maybe just go through a few of the points for Council, and then we can have some discussion about this. So Huron County is a prime agricultural area and is among the top crop and livestock producing regions in the province. Continued protection of the agricultural land base is important, very important to the long-term viability of our agri-food industry. Huron County has a very long-standing history of having over 50 years of having strong agricultural policies to support agricultural land protection in our official plans, both at the county and the local level, and directing non-farm related development to settlement areas. So in the agricultural areas, there are some opportunities for lot creation for agricultural uses, for ag-related uses, and those are our AG3 properties, agricultural, commercial, industrial, like the grain elevator properties, et cetera, those related to agriculture. Infrastructure, of course, minor lot boundary adjustments, and then surplus farm resident severance applications are permitted across all 9 local municipalities in the county. Non-farm, as I mentioned, non-farm related development is directed to our urban settlement areas where municipalities have invested a substantial amount of money into infrastructure, both hard and soft services. So, as mentioned, the Huron County and local official plan include policies to allow for surplus farm resident severances subject to a number of criteria. And the one that Council was discussing is the requirement that the surplus farm residence must have been built a minimum of 15 years ago or has immediately replaced a previous residence. So really the intent of the policy is that there has been a residence on the property for a minimum of 15 years. So whether it was a previous residence and a new one replaced that still meets the criteria, just that there needs to be a residence for a minimum of 15 years. And so the criteria has not posed much barrier in the fact that most of the new residences that are being built have replaced a previous residence and therefore would still qualify under the policies. The history of this criteria dates back to the original Huron County official plan that was passed in June of 1973. So in that document, there were high-level policies for agricultural severances, and then the local, it was secondary plans at that time, had the detailed criteria for surplus severances for those municipalities that chose to permit them. And the criteria, I looked back through some of those, and the criteria was that the residence be built prior to the passing of the county official plan on June 28th, 1973. So there has always been an age criteria for the residents. A new Huron County official plan was passed in 1999, and that criteria remained the same. It didn't change. Where the change occurred to this date was in 2013, when the criteria for surplus resident severances was put into the county official plan through a 5-year review, and then that standardized the criteria for all of the local municipalities. And I'm not sure, some of you may remember the discussion, but at that time, there was a discussion about the June 1973 date for the age of the residents, in that, that date was then 40 years. It would have had to have been 40 years old. So there was a discussion amongst council about that, whether that was still a reasonable criteria or not, and to keep that static date. So the direction of council was that they would prefer to have a rolling date. They still wanted to keep an age criteria, but they would prefer to have a rolling date. And so 15-year rolling date was directed by council and was included in the plan. From our planning staff's perspective, we do think that it is a good idea to keep the criteria in. It avoids speculation of someone building a new house just with the sole intent of severing it off and sort of driving up the agricultural land values across the county. Yeah, so if there is the potential for houses to be built based on speculation if no age limit is required. So we wanted to take a look at what other counties around us were doing in this regard to see what their criteria is. So we reviewed a few of the others, neighboring counties. So the summary of that is that Perth County and Middlesex County do both include criteria that the residents must be built a minimum of 10 years ago. So just a little bit less than ours. Ours is 15. Theirs are both at 10. Wellington County doesn't include that at the county level, but a couple of their local municipalities include it. There's small areas that are in the Greenbelt Plan area, and they're required to be built prior to 2004, which is around 20 years ago. But that is a requirement of the Greenbelt Plan. And Bruce County to the north of us does not include any requirement for the age of the surplus residents. So it's in this regard, the provincial policy statement does not set out the criteria for the age of the residents, and therefore there is a bit of a different approach across the province for that. So a change to this policy would require an amendment to the county official plan and all of the 9 local official plans if that's the direction of council, if you wish to proceed with a review of the policy. Council could direct staff to bring this forward for review the next time there is a housekeeping amendment to the county official plan or a 5-year review. And just to give you a little bit of sense of timing on that. So you've probably seen the media releases or heard at AMO that the province has just released the new provincial planning statement, which replaces the provincial policy statement of 2020. So our staff are reviewing that right now to determine what changes might be required to the county and local official plans, but we are anticipating that a housekeeping amendment will be required and that, may occur early in the new year in 2025. So if council was interested in reviewing this criteria at that same time through a housekeeping amendment, could direct staff to include something in that amendment. So that's just a bit about the background and history, and happy to hear your thoughts and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for that, Sandra, and it's very, very important to Huron County Council. I'll now open it up to questions or comments of Sandra on her report, and I'll go to first past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. I guess my thoughts are I don't see the need to be the most restrictive county in the area. I don't have a problem with retaining a date. I guess I'm somewhat, I don't really buy the argument that people are going to speculate on building houses. Farmland's so expensive now. If people want to make some money, they can sever off one of their lots and retire. So I don't know that it's a problem now that it may have been years ago. So I'm all right with dropping it to say 10 years and trying that. I think the 15-year date was pretty arbitrary at the time. They just wanted to get a date in that, so it didn't go back to when planning started in 73. So I guess those are kind of my thoughts. I really, if other counties aren't having the problem, I don't think we're going to have the problem either. So whether we do away with the date completely or lower it, I'm fine either way. But those are my comments.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Do any other members of County Council have any comments that they would like to contribute on this subject at this time? And I'll go now to Councillor Klopp, please.
Appreciate the previous comments. I was part of that discussion back in the day because we were having people coming with severances. I remember one poor guy in Stephen Township, which part of South Huron, and that's when it kind of evolved. Let's just move the date up, make it it's moving up. I think I concur with previous statement. If our neighboring ones are 10 years, I think we should at least do that. There's a certain sense to it. Clearly, 9 years ago, a severance on a property was $450,000. I know a guy was offered. The that same guy just sold 50 acres workable for 450,000. So things now at 1.8, well, we're hearing numbers of 40,000 workable acres. So it's all relative. To your point, it doesn't seem to really matter much. It's just different numbers. If there's a process that we do housekeeping, I think I'd be supportive of at least putting it to 10 and have the discussion.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments? I'm going to suggest for the consideration of council a potential motion if this would be of any interest, and that is that the Council of the County of Huron request staff prepare a report including the surplus farm residence severance 15-year criteria for age of residence and other housekeeping amendments to the county official plan required by the new provincial policy statement that will become effective the 20th of October of 2024. Would this be of interest to Huron County Council? Past Warden Ginn, comment, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't go through the amendment process. I would certainly wait until we're doing it anyways and do it as a housekeeping item. So, yeah, I would make the motion for a staff report with the idea of dropping it to a 10-year rolling average.
Okay, thank you. The request, and that will be seconded by Councillor Goderich. Any further questions or comments on this? All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this, Sandra. Very important to us. And I will now entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Sandra Weber, Director of Planning and Development, and Denise Van Amersfoort, Manager of Planning, titled Surplus Farm Residence Severance for Information. And that is moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor McClellan. All in favor of this motion. And that is carried. Thank you. And thanks again, Sandra and Denise. On to cultural services, the Well Community Collective Support Summary. Beth Rumble is here to respond to any questions the council may have on this report. Do we have any questions of Beth? And seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Beth Rumble, Director of Cultural Services and County Librarian, titled The Well Community Collective Support Summary, as presented for information purposes. Councillor Harding and Finch, all in favor of the motion. And that again is carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Beth. On to the artifact presentation. Noah is here to present to us this morning, and I would welcome Noah Chapman to present to us on the artifact presentation. Please, Noah.
Thank you, Warden McNeil and the members of council. I'm Noah Chapman. I'm the collections intern at the Huron County Museum. For the past 11 months, I have been working on the North Huron deaccessioning project. As you know, the North Huron Museum has been closed to the public since February 2018. We are currently transferring a selection of artifacts from that museum to the Huron County Museum. My job has been to review the eligible objects for historical provenance, local relevance, and ability to fill gaps in the Huron County collection. This research was undertaken using existing museum records and assets, including the digitized newspaper collection, Ancestry Library, and our existing Past Perfect database. Between August 2023 and August 2024, we have reviewed and transferred 9 full lists of deaccessioned artifacts. 2 more are currently under review. We hired 2 cataloging interns, one being myself, under the Young Canada Works Building Careers in Heritage grant program. And we also hired a cataloging summer student through the Young Canada Works summer grant funding. The 2 interns had prior heritage and museum experience and both held master's degrees in history. I'm just going to present a few highlights from the various deaccessioning lists going up to list 8. Many of these artifacts have to do with the town of Wingham and surrounding communities in the broader North Huron region, with the oldest being from the original Wingham Museum. In the case of list 1, it was a smaller list. We accepted such things as a picture of the childhood home of artist G.A. Reed, and two early examples of town of Wingham automobile licenses, a number of postal related objects, including a post box from the 1940s and a set of scales and weights from the original Wingham post office. We also took in a few examples of historical camera equipment, such as this Kodak lamp. List 2 was a larger list and is actually the largest list we've taken so far. The highlights of this list had a large collection of law and justice related artifacts, primarily from the Wingham Police Department, but also included a number of artifacts from the first female Justice of the Peace, A.F. Yvonne McPherson. We also took in a number of sports-related artifacts, such as golf clubs, and as well as a collection of these carved wooden birds. These are from the original founder of the Wingham Museum, Mr. Reed. A few other highlights include examples of equipment used by the local radio station CKNX, a number of dairy bottles from dairies that had existed in Wingham and the surrounding area, as well as a number of artifacts and examples of tools used by the Gurney Glove Works, also in Wingham. List 3 had a large collection of artifacts related to CKNX, including a film camera, radio and television equipment. This was also the largest collection of historical photographs. I've included 4 examples of pictures and postcards from Wingham. This is the same street at various times, spanning from the 1860s to the 1970s. We also took in more examples from local industries and of things like the Lycam Theater to represent the entertainment available in earlier times. List 4 included a number of highlights and a large collection from local fraternal organizations such as the Masons, the Loyal Orange Lodge, and the Foresters. We also took in objects from the Wingham General Hospital and examples of community activities like this Fall Fair medallion. We also took in, this was quite interesting, a traditional child-size Scottish outfit. List 5 was largely handled by our summer student. I asked her to prepare this slide for us, this list largely consisted of textiles as well as mechanical tools. Lists 6 and 7 had a broader variety of artifacts. It included a large selection of trophies from both the Wingham and Blythe public schools, as well as local bowling and curling clubs. We also took in more dairy bottles, a large collection of material from the Wingham and Blythe public schools, examples of historical games, invitations to past homecoming events, a record player used at the Wingham Figure Skating Club, and a painting of a church in Wingham, England, done by Mr. Reed. List 8 highlights included art by local artists, again, from Wingham, a large collection of military memorabilia and artifacts, more birds, a communion set, examples of entertainment from the Chautauqua Institute, and this guitar that is signed by performers of the CKNX Barn Dance from 1943. Some comments on list 9, which is just finished. The list again had a greater variety of assorted artifacts, again including military memorabilia and some industrial examples. Through this project, we've also conducted a number of outreach and exhibits. Evelyn and I, our other intern, set up in our community curators display an example of some of the artifacts from the earlier lists. We have in the Wingham Library, we set up a display of Mr. Allen's birds. That is now at the Exeter Library and will be until early October. We also attended the Wingham Homecoming with a large exhibit, again, set up in the Wingham branch. Overall, the project has been quite successful. We are currently ahead of our estimated schedule that was established in fall 2023. This can be largely attributed to the hiring of an additional intern and the 5-month contract extension that was given to me. We have accepted 4,400 unique articles from the 9 deaccession lists, and we have added 2,700 new catalog records over the past year. This means that on an average day of cataloging, an intern has been able to add approximately 50 new records a day to our past perfect database. Research into historical provenance of transferred items was completed and will be added to the catalog which will connect the collection together with our existing exhibits and artifacts. Our next steps. North Huron has an estimated 4 lists of artifacts to be transferred. It is estimated that the final project intake will have around 7,000 unique artifacts, meaning that we have taken about 2/3 of our total estimated intake. The cataloging of transferred items and proper housing and storage in available space is ongoing and will continue into the fall. We have dedicated the temporary exhibit gallery to storing North Huron materials for processing, but the temporary gallery space will be needed for planned exhibits and events in 2025 and 2026. Main storage will be going a partial reorganization so we can safely store our newly accessioned artifacts. This will be in space that was previously used for the County of Huron corporate records. This is a project that is still ongoing. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I am here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Noah, for sharing that with us today. And do any members of County Council have any questions or comments of Noah on this? We'll go now to Councillor Vanstone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was privileged to see these artifacts that have come down, and they're quite phenomenal. And I would really like to say that I'm pleased that we were able to bring them in, because as museums around the townships and the neighboring municipalities close, we don't want to lose these artifacts. But I know it's quite a feat for these people to take these in, find a place for them, and even be able to store them because they're being stored and not displayed. So I give them a big round of applause for doing this, and I think we as a council need to look at this, because I think you're going to see more coming to us, because municipalities are, and we all know this, even here, we're under the crunch for money. And but we don't want to lose this, because some of those cameras that he was talking about from CKNX and the barn dance, like, I know I'm old, but anyways, I have seen the barn dance, and it brings back memories, and I don't want to see us lose that. So that's just my comments. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Oh, thank you very much for that. Absolutely. No doubt you were at the Lyceum Theatre. Any additional comments or questions? Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden, a great job, Noah. I've known Noah for a number of years, and I think he did a really good job for his first presentation to council, and well spoken. Well done.
Absolutely, Noah. Thank you very much. Councillor Haffer, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I just want to thank Noah and the work that their crew is doing up at North Huron. It's very much appreciated by council up there, and just thank you again, Noah, for the work you did. And again, for the homecoming, it was great going through that. I'm sure there's a lot of people went through that. I know there was the day I was there, so thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation by Noah Chapman, Museum Collections Assistant, titled Artifact Presentation, as presented for information. J and P Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. And thanks very much again, Noah, for your very professional presentation to us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to number 3, Museum and Cultural Strategic Plans. I would like to welcome Beth Rumble to present to us this morning. Please, Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you, I'm very pleased this morning to present the newly finalized strategic plans for the museum as well as the cultural office. Over the course of the development of these plans, there was many forms of engagement that took place with both the public and staff. These plans will guide the actions of the museum and the cultural office for the next 5 years. And we have priority areas such as welcoming and inclusive, storytelling, and building capacity. These plans really demonstrate the cohesiveness of the whole department because you'll see the design reflects the design of the library strategic plan, and they have similar priorities, which is wonderful to see the department working even more closely together. And lastly, just for council's information, the annual action plans will be developed and brought forward to council to demonstrate how we will operationalize the strategic plans. I'm happy to respond to any questions council may have.
Thank you very much for that, Beth. Do any members of council have any questions or comments to Beth? And if not, thank you very much, Beth, for presenting this to us today. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder that the Huron County Council accepts a report by Beth Rumble, Director of Cultural Services and County Librarian, titled Museum Cultural Strategic Plans, as presented for information. Councillor Bazinet and Klopp. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thanks again, Beth. Would you care to address council on the library social return on investment, please, at this time?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. I'm very pleased to present the results of the library's social return on investment. This is work that was initiated at the provincial level and made available to all Ontario public libraries to go through the process to determine what their unique social return on investment for their community is. I think this really demonstrates the large value that libraries provide to their community, large benefits that they provide. I think it's not surprising that we see that education and leisure is the dimension where the most value is provided, but I think it's also telling that areas such as economic development, thinking about the leaky bucket theory that the Economic Development Department here speaks of, as well as education and space also provide significant value to our community. There is an infographic attached to the report to summarize the results in kind of a one-pager to make it easy to take in the information. And we also intend to, during Ontario Public Library Week that occurs in mid-October, highlight these results through our social media channels, highlighting one dimension every day of that week to share the information further with the public. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Beth. Do any members of council have any questions or comments to Beth on this report? And if not, Beth, great work. Thank you very much for what you do for us. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Beth Rumble, titled Library Social Return on Investment, as presented for information. Jay Dietrich and Councillor Finch. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. And thanks again, Beth. On to number 11, the strategic priorities for August 2024. And our CAO is very capable of responding to any questions that any members of council may have on this. And if there are none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by CAO Megan Wark titled Strategic Priorities as presented for information purposes, please. Past Warden Ginn and Councillor Anderson. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. And thank you very much, CAO Wark, for this. We do have a number of correspondence that has been circulated. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull? And if I see none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to accept the correspondence not specifically dealt with for information, please. Moved by Councillor Becker, seconded by Councillor Alvin McClellan. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. If there is any new or unfinished business, I would suggest that they contact the CAO in advance so that it could be placed on a published future agenda. Does anyone have a notice of motion that they would like to bring forward at this time for a future meeting? Seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to have the 5 bylaws introduced, read as first, second, and third time and passed. And P. Heffer and Councillor Harding. All in favor of this motion. And that is carried. I thank you. We do have a closed session today. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder that the Council of the County of Huron does now go into a closed to the public session at 9:56 a.m. under Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss an item that relates to personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, funding campaign support request, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees fraud issue. And further that, the CAO Megan Wark, Director of Legislative Services Clerk Susan Cronin, and Director of Corporate Services Michael Blumhagen remain in attendance. A mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Finch moves, past Warden Ginn seconds. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. So we will just give our clerk 2 minutes because we want to wrap this up before Councillor Bazinet has to leave to secure the meeting, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. For those that are participating outside the meeting, I will be sending you a panelist invite if you'd like to stick around for the entire meeting. If not, I ask that you disconnect now.
Okay, we're now in our open session, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to rise from the closed to the public session at 10:22 a.m. and that would be moved by past Warden McClellan, seconded by Councillor Becker. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Reporting out of our closed session, please, CAO.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Warden, the purpose of going into close today was for Council to receive information on personal matters regarding a funding campaign support request as well as a fraud issue.
Thank you very much for that. I would like to note our upcoming meetings. Week from today is our library board, a hybrid meeting. Council Day 2 is the 18th of September in these council chambers, and again, a hybrid meeting. We do have a virtual training session on the 19th day of September on the path forward to truth and reconciliation. Very important. The Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee on the 23rd of September. That is a fully virtual meeting. Council Day 1, the 2nd of October in these council chambers, and again, a hybrid meeting. Economic Development on the 3rd of October, a hybrid meeting. Library Board on the 9th, and Council Day 2 on the 16th of October, and again, hybrid meeting and in council chambers. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw, please. And that is moved by Councillor Vanstone, seconded by Councillor McClellan, that bylaw number 2024-70, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the County of Huron to proceed to confirm the proceedings, be introduced, given a first, second, and third reading, be passed, signed by the Warden and the Clerk, and the seal of the Corporation affixed thereto. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. And with that, thanks very much to all members of County Council and to our staff for all of your valuable contributions today to our council meeting. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Councillors Dietrich and J. Heffer, that we do now adjourn at 10:24 a.m. to meet again on the 18th day of September, or at the call of the warden and the clerk. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried, and thanks very much to all.